What up y'all, it's TTAR, and today we're going to be talking about Pokemon Legends EA and new cross evolutions that could arise in it. So you remember in Legends Arceus how we got a new Standler evolution, a new Scyther evolution, Ursaluna. A lot of Pokemon were revisited for the first time properly since Gen 4, if you discount Sylveon, and it was a pretty monumental thing in Pokemon. The same thing is set up to happen again in Legends EA. It all depends on what Pokemon are in the Pokedex. And guess what? We know some of the Pokemon that are confirmed to be in Pokemon Legends EA. So shout out to Serebii that took note of all of them. You see, in the trailer, despite it being a teaser, remember how it started off showing a Pikachu running? It actually shows us a teaser of all the Pokemon that will return in this Kalos game. These are candidates for Pokemon that could get a brand new evolution in this game. We all know these Pokemon, stuff like Jinx, that should have evolved. We're gonna have some fun with this here. So here we go, they've counted every Pokemon in National Dex order, starting with Ekans and Arbok, which is already a candidate for getting a cross evolution. Arbok, Cobra backwards. There's always been so much fanware for Arbok if it could evolve. It's in the game. Like here's one where they've given it a name based off King Cobra, making it spell backwards and forwards. So King and Cobra, it starts from the K, and they made it a poison dragon type. You can take some inspiration, especially from Norse mythology in terms of serpents, and have this play a key role specifically to Kalos, where it had a further evolution back in the day. By the way, for this video, we're assuming the game takes place in the past. So yeah, Ekans and Arbok. Then we get to Pikachu and Raichu. Now, okay, we could talk about Gorochu, but in honest, it's something in the past. Game Freak clearly has had many opportunities to do it. They still could. But another thing that could arise is, you know, they've given Raichu a regional variant before. You never know if they might give Pikachu something else. A different evolution that it used to have back in old Kalos days. So it'd be an old Kalosian evolution to Pikachu. Probably still called Raichu. Next up, we got the Bellsprout family. You know, Victory Bell being fully evolved doesn't fully disqualify. You could get the whole Blossom treatment. You know how Blossom evolved from Gloom. But I think it's a little less likely with this. Now, Onyx is a big one. Onyx is a pretty good parallel to Scyther, right? So, you know, Scyther evolved with this black glassy stone called the Augurite. And so Onyx, instead of evolving into Steelix with the metal coat, could get something pretty much in the same lane. Or you could get the fabled Crystal Onyx? Well, some kind of fabled crystal evolution where it's called something else, Crystallix. But that's your new cleaver for this game. Onyx is a good one. Maybe something like a rock ice type and have an ability where it takes resisted damage. Next up is Staryu and Starmie. It's incredible how these are all good candidates. Starmie is a really interesting Pokemon. It has some background lore where it looks like it came from the stars and is like sending radio waves back there. It could get some kind of old evolutions where back in those days when stuff was tougher, it actually could get pushed to a further limit and evolve again, which is pretty much the story with Wordier. Then we got Pinsir. It has a mega evolution, hard to say what they could do with that. And then Magikarp and Gyarados. Well, Gyarados is a staple. It's a Pokemon that has a lot of potential to get a new cross evolution, but especially since Gyarados has a mega evolution, they'd have to maybe evolve Magikarp differently in this game. Also, I know technically Duraludon broke the G-Max Mega barrier, so any Pokemon can technically do it, but who knows, right? Maybe it's just him. Next up, we've got the Eevees, and of course then all of its evolutions. Doesn't seem like they want to give Eevee new evolutions, but the door is always still open for loopholing this, like giving us some kind of dragon evolution that only happens back in the Kalos days. I just realized something lining up really well. Eevee could get something, but this ain't the video to talk about it. Aerodactyl's in the game. Who resurrected Aerodactyl back then? Here I thought Kanto discovered it first. I guess technically Aerodactyls have been roaming around in special places, so they don't all just get resurrected from fossils. I suppose that would imply that the Aerodactyl we do resurrect from the old Amber is what it actually looked like. It's not some augmented version that's part rock. Oh my goodness. Then we have Dragonite. Now listen, it's actually very possible. Remember, we got Goodra, which had a Hisuian Goodra with a giant shell on its back. Dragonite is like one of the only pseudo-legendaries that was never revisited. Okay, see, ttarSUBMIT, Garchomp, they all got mega evolutions. Hydreigon got a future form. Goodra got the variant, so that leaves just Como, Dragapult, Baxcalibur, and then Dragonite. But you see, the first three, they're from the later gens, so they have their room to get revisited, and it could be in this game. But Dragonite has been a long time coming. Either he gets a Mega Evolution or they give him the Hisuian Guja treatment. We'll revisit Dragonite in a future video. There's something big for him. Spinrack and Arriados. Arriados is actually a good candidate. I mean, it's quite a useless Pokemon right now. It only has 400 BST. Oh, Arriados has an extremely high chance of getting a cross evolution. 400 BST? It's asking for one. Look, Stantler, that weird Pokemon, has 465 BST, and that's unevolved. This man is evolved in 400? He's evolving. That is very likely that Arriados evolves, and you may not respect Arriados right now, but if he becomes this giant, ancient Black Widow evolution, you'll love him a lot. We've got the Gardevoir family Absol, and then Hippopotas and Hippowdon. Hippowdon's a pretty good candidate. It kind of gives you that Ursa Ring vibe, right? You can imagine going to the desert area and there's like quicksand everywhere, but the Hippowdons are like in a circle, just in their habitat, and at the very center is like the king of the Hippowdon, a new evolution. We've also got the Sandile family in this game leading to Crocodile. Maybe in this region, something like Hippowdon and Crocodile, they get into a lot of battles over turfs, and this is what caused the King Hippowdon to form. We got a Mocha, it's the Pikachu clone. Then we got a bunch of the Kalos Pokemon. The Talonflame family, Pyroar, Florges, Go-Goat, Pangoro. Because these are Kalos Pokemon, it's hard to judge these, right? It's not impossible that they'd give cross evolutions to Kalos Pokemon in a Kalos game. Like, for example, with Pangoro, right? It sounds just like Ursaring. Maybe it lost the Ursaluna-like evolution, which it did have back then. But it does work for some of these, like Furfrou. What if Furfrou, there's like a less domesticated version back in the day. In fact, Furfrou sounds the type that would get a regional variant where you can't mess with its hair, as well as an evolution to that. But I mean, at the end of the day, Furfrou's a poodle. And it's not like you can just make this man savage again. I suppose you'll have a Furfrou, but it has a whole new set of forms in this game based off like France hairstyles from 200 years ago, along with some other ones. Even the old Furfrou forms aren't just limited to French stuff. Like we got a Pharaoh trim. Anyhow, moving on, we got the Meowstic family, the AIS Slash family. Wow, AIS Slash is one of the most popular Pokemon. See, AIS Slash sounds more like it would get a Mega Evolution. Do you know how wild a Mega AIS Slash will be? We'll talk about Megas next. We got the Dragalge family. They didn't show the Clotzer family, but maybe you could do the same thing again where they used to fight back in the day and they had a stronger evolution. Dragalge is a Pokemon I liked a lot. I remember training one back in X and Y, but look at its base stats. 494. And it's a very slow Pokemon. Its highest stat is its special defense. It made me so sad when I found out it was useless. This is a Pokemon that deserves its redemption. Evolve this thing. Then the last four ones are Hawlucha, Klefki, and the Noivern family. You know, Klefki does look like an interesting one. Some kind of evolution that only triggered back then. Like maybe it collects a haunted key, and there's a tendency for this happening in Klefki, and they have this ghost evolution where they're what? Fairy ghost types? Klefki is just such a weird Pokemon, and it reminds us all of Kalos. It feels like something that could have a fun evolution in the past. Hawlucha too, honestly. Hawlucha is a very unique Pokemon, right? It has that new move that's both flying and fighting. Hawlucha also has a 500 base stat. Could you imagine somehow, you know how they made Duraludon into like an honorary pseudo-legendary? Imagine that happens to Hawlucha. It evolves and hits 600 BST. Of all the Pokemon, it's now a pseudo. But it is a unique Pokemon that you never know if they would do something like that too. But yeah, the last one, Noivern's actually a very strong Pokemon. 535 BST. Yeah, I could get the Archaludon treatment too. In fact, I think that's exactly what Duraludon's base stats were. Oh my goodness, it was exactly 535. This is concerning. It would be interesting though, right? If Noivern in the past becomes Kalos' second pseudo-legendary, along with Gudra. I forgot Gudra belongs to this region. But yeah, there is a region out there that has two pseudo-legendaries, which is Hoenn. They got both Metagross and Salamence. So in the same way, maybe Kalos truly is a region with two as well. Noivern's evolution and Gudra. But Noivern's evolution got lost at time but still, even in its second stage to this day, it remains a strong Pokemon. Who knows, y'all? Make sure you shank that like button. Let me know in the comments, what is a Pokemon you think should get a cross evolution in this game? I'll link Serebii's coverage of all the confirmed Pokemon in the description below, but yeah, next time we'll talk about Mega Evolutions, the Pokemon that absolutely deserve them in this game. So yeah, I'll see y'all then. Take care.